We begin in a house where several Supes are having a party. They do several types of drugs and get high while a man named Oswald moves around and makes more drugs. He wakes up the next morning and hears someone knocking on his door. Oswald opens the door and doesn't see anyone. He suddenly sees a dog named Terror, and Butcher emerges. He enters the house as he holds Oswald and asks him if he knows who he is. Oswald says he provides drugs for Supes, and Butcher asks him where he keeps the children's blood. He says he knows that Ironcast drinks it to beg an erection, and says he knows everything. Butcher asks Oswald what the Great Wide Wonder is into, and Oswald says he's into enemas. Great Wide Wonder puts a tube up his anus and gets high on the drug that enters him. Butcher gives Oswald a strange fluid and tells him to add it to Great Wide Wonder's drugs. He tries to stab Butcher with an injection, but Butcher stops him and threatens to throw him off the balcony. Butcher says Oswald will spend the rest of his life in prison if he doesn't help, and Oswald realizes how he will suffer. Later, Oswald meets Butcher and Huey and informs them he did as Butcher wanted. Butcher assures him no one will pay attention to them, and says he wants him to be a part of the fun he made. A woman welcomes Jack from Jupiter, Queen Maeve, and Homelander. Homelander talks to the crowd and says they'll be inaugurating Great Wide Wonder into the Superhero Hall of Fame, and Great Wide Wonder arrives. He acts strange as he talks to the crowd, and Homelander says he'll have to fly through a flaming ring held up by Ironcast. Great Wide Wonder begins flying around, and Oswald asks Butcher why he's messing with the Supes. Butcher tells him that Great Wide Wonder took some girls into orbit to have sex with them, and left them as they froze to death. Great Wide Wonder begins going crazy because of the drugs and begins flying toward Ironcast. He flies through Ironcast's stomach instead of through the flaming ring and slams into a wall. The crowd begins to scream, and Homelander wonders what they'll do. Maeve lies to the people and says there's an enemy ship hidden behind the rays of the sun. Homelander says they'll have to avenge Great Wide Wonder, and they fly away. Meanwhile, Butcher is happy because 2 Supes died instead of 1. He and Huey walk away, and Butcher asks Huey to be Oswald's handler. He asks Huey if he had a lot of fun, and Huey asks him to define fun. A man named Stan Edgar announces to the public and welcomes the latest and greatest superhero named Homelander. The audience cheers as he lands on the stage, and reporters ask Homelander some questions. Homelander talks about how he always wanted to be a professional baseball player but had to give up on his dreams of joining the big league. He says that Vought is in the big league but remembers how he was tortured as a child while several scientists experimented on his powers. He then introduces Black Noir and says they will be teammates. The audience cheers as they see Black Noir, and Homelander gets upset. Homelander talks to Madeline later, and she says Black Noir doesn't want him to take his #1 stage. She says she's building a good future for him and says he shouldn't let Black Noir take it away. Later, a reporter talks about how some liberators kidnapped several executives and plays a video. The kidnappers say they won't release the hostages unless they close the factory. Homelander arrives at the factory, and some men instruct him to wait for Black Noir to arrive. He remembers what Madeline said and refuses to wait for Black Noir. Homelander meets a woman and uses a metal pipe to restrain her. She calls for help, and the man who comes to help her breaks his nose as he bumps into Homelander. Homelander ties him with a pipe and flies to where the other kidnappers are. He enters the room and tells them he isn't there to hurt anyone. Their leader tells him not to come close, or he will shoot the hostages. Homelander disarms the kidnappers and tells them to comply with him so their complaints will be properly heard. The leader grabs the bent gun and threatens to use it to kill a hostage. Homelander decides to use his laser to heat up the gun, and it explodes. The explosion kills the hostage and destroys the man's hand. The kidnappers tell Homelander that they don't have intentions of killing anyone. They say that they were trying to save lives because the factory caused a lot of pollution. A woman calls him a crazy superhero, and he accidentally kills her as he tries to shut her up. He begins to kill the people in the room as he remembers his childhood trauma and realizes that almost everyone in the room is dead. A woman survives, and she begs Homelander not to kill her. Black Noir arrives, and she tells him that Homelander killed everyone. Homelander tries to explain to Black Noir but says he wants to be on top. He begins to attack Black Noir as he runs, and Black Noir sees an apprehended kidnapper. Homelander sees the kidnapper's silhouette and thinks it's Black Noir. He uses the laser to kill the man, but it causes an explosion that destroys the entire factory. Homelander emerges from the rubble and sees a woman trying to crawl away. Black Noir meets the woman and proceeds to break her neck. He pulls out a note and pen and writes what they'll tell the press. Homelander talks to the press and tells them that the explosion was caused by the kidnappers and killed everyone. He says he has failed them, but the people cheer for him because they think he risked his life for them. Later, Homelander talks to Madeline, and she says his ratings went up. They walk in the hallway, and Homelander says he learned some things from Black Noir. Black Noir emerges as he holds a cup and takes a sip from it. The end. We appreciate you for sticking to the end of this video. Please do us a huge favor and check out these other videos, and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.